Hello, Fiona here. So this week we're going to look at building a better relationship with ourselves. And the reason we are doing that is so that we can bring more awareness into how we relate with ourselves. And then later on, we're going to see how that influences how we relate with other people. So, up until this point, it's quite possible that you have not really contemplated having a relationship with yourself, or maybe the relationship you have with yourself is more skewed towards negativity than it is towards positivity. And so, what I mean by that is perhaps the way in which you see yourself, the story you tell about yourself to yourself and to others, is more charged with negative words and negative feelings than it is with more uplifting words, encouraging words, and positive words. So we'll get into that in just a bit. So I wanted to start with how to go about building that relationship with yourself. And the first place you want to begin is the intention. You want to set the intention that you're ready and willing to build a healthy relationship with yourself, and it's got to have a motivation, like why are you setting that intention? Okay, so you have a healthy relationship with yourself, and then what, right? So the motivation here essentially is to show yourself and remind yourself that you know that you matter. You're taking the time to relate with yourself like you matter, and therefore your feeling of that I matter, right? That feeling, it continues to grow. It's like a snowball. So it starts out pretty small, but the more it's rolling, then the more snow accumulates, and then eventually you have like a huge, gigantic snowball. And you want that to be the effect for yourself as well, especially on this journey of healing, that you're looking to improve aspects of the way that you are feeling, improve aspects of the way that you think, improve aspects in terms of the habits that you engage in or the activities that you do. Um, how you view yourself, how you treat yourself, then is essential on that journey. And so your starting point is the intention. The second place to then venture into when you're building a healthy relationship with yourself is your language. And so now we come back to the fact that you could either have negatively charged words that are the majority, that make up the majority of the way you view yourself, or positively charged words, positively charged language. Our lives, we call it the story of our life, right? Like that's a phrase that we use quite often because we are always telling a story about ourselves, either to other people or to ourselves. And so, whenever, especially, you're dealing with difficult things or things that are challenging that you want to change, you want to ensure that the language you're using is edifying you, is pushing you forward, is carrying you through, as opposed to tearing you down, burdening you, making you feel less than, right? Like, other people can do that out of their own unconsciousness or their own stories, their own drama, but you don't want to be the one that's doing that to yourself. And so, if you start to review the way in which you have been viewing yourself, the thoughts you have are thoughts in words, right? Like we don't think, okay, we also think in pictures, but we also think in words. And so if you're constantly thinking to yourself, ah, I'm so stupid, I'm such a failure, I can never get things right, I don't understand what is wrong with me, that, by the way, is like the most, I can say, like, heartbreaking question that you can keep asking yourself. If you're constantly asking yourself, what is wrong with me, what is wrong with me, you're only allowing yourself to view yourself through the lens of that which is wrong with you, your deficiencies. A different question you can ask is like, how did I end up in this situation? Again, if you end up there the second, the third, the fifth time, the 10th time, how did I end up in this situation again? What can I do differently? How can I support myself to be able to make the change that I want to make, right? Those are much better questions. They're not even positive questions. They're more neutral than they are positive, right? So you want to check your language. You want to see whether the way you speak to yourself or about yourself is skewed more toward negative or positive. It might be difficult to make the jump from negative right through to positive, right? Like you're not gonna go from I'm such a failure, I can never get things right, to like, yeah, I can do this, I believe in myself, I'm the best. That might not be possible. So the neutral aspect is also something for you to consider as movement forward, movement away from tearing yourself down and beating yourself up. And those questions will sound like the ones I had given earlier, like what can I do differently? How can I change my plan? What are the steps that I can take that will get me closer to the goal? How can I give myself more grace? How can I show myself more compassion? Okay, those are great neutral questions that you can ask yourself. And it's in that motion, like when you're moving away from negative into neutral, that you start to see yourself, right, dropping off ways of thinking that did not belong to you. Maybe you inherited your critical way of evaluating your life from a caregiver. Would encourage you to read on introjection if that sounds like something that resonates with you, where we take the beliefs of other people and we make them our own, even if we didn't arrive at that conclusion on our own, right? Like there are some people who will offer criticism because that's just how they operate, and so now we internalize their criticism and make it our own, so that we are now offering ourselves that criticism. Okay. In that movement, you'll be dropping away those beliefs that don't belong to you. You let them go because they belong to somebody else. They belong to somebody else. And so you can relieve yourself of this way of viewing yourself, because now you're stepping into a new way of viewing yourself, which you get to determine for yourself. And so starting from neutral is a great point as you work your way towards positive. Once you've assessed your language and you've started to make the necessary changes, yeah, so you want to be offering yourself encouragement. You want to be validating even the smallest steps, right? Because it's a step forward and it's not stagnation, it's not a regression. Should you regress, should you relapse, should you fall back, fall behind, you can still offer yourself encouragement. You can still be like, okay, yeah, I messed up this time, but just because I messed up this one time doesn't mean that that's my fate. I don't need to give up on myself. I can still be able to show up for myself tomorrow. Tomorrow is a new day and I'm going to try again. We can start counting from day zero if necessary, and it's okay. I'm a human being. I'm allowed to make mistakes, but I won't make the mistake define me or define who I am. I'm ready to move forward towards the change that I desire. Right? So you see, that's very different from, oh my god, now I've done it again, I can't believe myself, I'm so stupid. You see, then the energy you'll be moving through that mistake with will be very negatively charged, which is highly likely to keep you stuck in that mistake, as opposed to like pushing you forward through it. Another aspect, which will be the final one for this video, is to tune into our bodily sensations. Now, I know it sounds a bit strange, but if you start to pay more attention to sensations like thirst, hunger, needing to go to the bathroom, you're affirming that sense of like, I matter and my needs matter, so I'm going to respond to my needs with as much immediacy as is possible at this particular moment. Like, you don't wait until you're 3 hours into the day before you have your first cup of water, right? Like, you understand that hydration is important, so have a cup of water first thing you wake up, all right? With hunger, you don't want to wait until you're dying of hunger to respond to the need for hunger. And the sensations, they arise not just like the natural physiological needs, but like even feelings that sometimes you'll be seated and then you start to feel like a weird feeling in your tummy. Maybe it's like repressed guilt that's showing up, or shame that's showing up. Maybe there's a feeling in your chest of like heaviness, so that could be like repressed grief, unprocessed sadness, right? That could be showing up. So paying attention to these sensations, you're doing so that you can be able to decode from those sensations what you need to pay more attention to. It could be that you're having pain in your shoulder and your neck, and it turns out that it's because your pillow or your mattress needs changing and you haven't changed it for a while, right? Paying attention to our body, where we are residing, right? Like, we are in our body from birth until death. So anytime something comes up within the body that we start to pay attention to, we are reinforcing that message that, oh, actually, yeah, I do matter. And I'm going to attend to myself like I matter, because I love myself, I care for myself, I'm paying attention to myself, and I'm making the necessary adjustments to support myself in creating a better quality life for myself. Okay, so these are the 3 ways I would recommend that you start building a healthier relationship with yourself. Number 1 is to set the intention. Number 2 is to, what was number 2? To observe the language that you're using when you're referring to yourself. Either talking to yourself, talking about yourself, talking about your experiences, talking about your situation, the one you're currently in or the ones you have overcome, the ones you're anxious about, whatever. Use edifying language, language that is supporting, that is encouraging, that is lifting and raising. All right? And then you want to pay attention to your bodily sensations so that you can keep reinforcing the message to yourself that you matter, and be able to make the necessary adjustments to support yourself be more comfortable. All right? So I would want to hear from you, as always. If anything on the video has resonated with you, if it has given you like an aha moment, if you've set an intention in addition to starting to build a healthy relationship, let me know. We can talk about it on the group. And until next time, ciao.